Welcome to the Long Run with Joel and Chrissy. I'm Joel, flying solo today, and this is the second installment of my quest to run a Boston Marathon qualifying time. And in episode 2, we're going to be talking about my first 2 weeks of training. Now, I did start my training about 2.5 weeks ago, and I think it's going pretty well so far, and kind of pleased with where I'm at. But I'm going to share with you some things that I feel like are kind of important. I'm not going to really go through every day of my training. I'm just going to go through just some highlights from the different days, some things I really want to focus on. And so I'm looking at my calendar as I do this. But I did start on September 27th, and that'll be 18 weeks until the Town of Celebration Marathon, which is the marathon I'm running. It's a pancake flat marathon. And it should be good for a good time when we get there. So I am incorporating some hill runs. I'm incorporating some tempo runs and incorporating some speed work, which would be my interval runs, to kind of build up some speed, to build up some stamina and some strength as I go along with just some easy runs on Mondays and Wednesdays, a rest day on Friday. Sometimes a marathon pace run on Saturday, and then a long run, which I'm trying to run a little bit slower than marathon pace. I do those on Sundays. So my week started out with my first long run was on Sunday, October the 3rd. And it was just a 10-mile run, just a 10-mile run for that day. So I want to focus in on the hill runs. Now I'm doing those on a treadmill. My first one was on Tuesday, the September 28th, and I did three times up a hill. So I did it on a 5% incline, and I ran it at a 7:30 pace. 7 minutes and 30 second pace. And then I did that. I would run up for a half a mile, and then I would not stop it, but I would slow it down. I was going back down the hill for a quarter mile, and then I'd do it again. Up the hill, down, up the hill, down. I did that 3 times just to practice some hill runs, and they'll get increasingly more difficult. Now I'll do a lot more hills as I go along through my training, but that was the first one. This is kind of the first time I've incorporated hill runs in my training, and interested to do that. Just do them on the treadmill because I don't really have any hills here in Florida that I can run. My first tempo run was last Thursday, September the 30th, and I'm doing my tempo runs at 7 minutes and 30 seconds per mile. Actually, I may speed that up a little bit more, because I found out that even though qualifying time for my age group at Boston is 3 hours and 35 minutes, and I'm going for 3 hours and 30 minutes, which I thought should have been good enough, what I found out was that you had to have at least 3 hours and 27 minutes to get a spot in the Boston Marathon. So even though I could qualify to submit a qualifying time at 3 hours and 35 minutes or 3 hours and 30 minutes, I may not get accepted because there may be a lot of faster runners in front of me. There's a lot of old fast guys out there, so I got to get a little quicker. So I may start to kind of augment that training, maybe run at 7 minutes. I think I could do 7-minute tempo runs, and I'm going to tell you why in just a few minutes, because of the run I did yesterday. On Tuesday. And so that was my first tempo run. And then, like I said, my first long run was a 10-mile run on October the 3rd. Then my next 30-minute tempo run was the next Tuesday, which I also did at about 7:20, 7 minutes and 20 seconds per mile. And I did about 4 miles on those tempo runs. So The next one I did on the Thursday the 7th was a 3-mile pace run that I ran right at 8 minutes per mile, which was my preferred pace before I find out what time I actually need to have. And now I'm kind of moving my pace up to like 7 minutes and 54 seconds. I know it's only 6 seconds per mile faster, but it's still 6 seconds per mile faster to get to that time. So then my next long run was on October the 10th, and I did an 11-mile run, and I ran that one at 7 minutes and 54 seconds per mile. So the exact marathon pace that I'm looking for to get in at 3 hours and 27 minutes, I did run the 11 miles at 7 minutes and 54 seconds per mile. So that's kind of my training for the last couple of weeks. I kind of want to go into how I'm kind of breaking down the marathon to run it into, I break it up into sections. So 26.2 miles doesn't seem like a really long race. I mean, it does, 26.2 miles, but if you break it down into sections, then it doesn't seem as long. And so I break it down into what some has referred to as the 10-10-10 training method, or the 10-10-10 marathon method, whereas you run 10 miles at a certain pace, the next 10 miles at another pace, and then the last 10K, it's all you got for those last 6.2 miles. And so most people do a 10-10-10 with 10 miles just over marathon pace, or a little slower than marathon pace. Then the next 10 miles a little faster than marathon pace to kind of even those out. And then those last 6.2 miles, you're really going all out. I'm kind of augmenting that a little bit and changing those first two 10. The first section is going to be 10 miles, and I'm going to do it at just under marathon pace. So somewhere around 7 minutes 45 seconds per mile for the first 10 miles. And then for the second 10 miles, I'm going to run that a little slower, because for me, I feel like I can go out a little faster. And then those in between miles, I can kind of rest my body a little bit, not put as much exertion on it for those second 10 miles. So when I get to the last 10K or the last 6.2 miles, I can really go all out and really give it that final push to get me to that 3 hours and 27 minutes that I'm looking for. So that's kind of how I'm doing that. Drop me a comment below and let me know how you're training, how you do. If you've done marathons, how do you break it up? How do you break up the monotony of thinking, oh man, I got to run 26.2 miles? How do you break that up? Drop me a comment below. Oh, and I forgot that I was going to tell you that why I feel like I can do the faster pace, or I can do the tempo runs a little faster, was because I did my first interval training a couple of days ago, and I was going to run my intervals. If you remember my first video, I was going to run my intervals, which is a half mile or 800 meters, and then rest for, a tenth of a mile, quarter of a mile, then run another 800 meters, rest, another 800 meters, rest. And so I was going to run the intervals at 7 minutes per mile. Well, when I did my intervals a couple days ago, and you'll hear about this probably on the next video as well, but I ran those at about 6 minutes and 30 seconds per mile for each half mile. So I felt pretty good about that. I felt that was a pretty good pace for me. So I may kind of back those up a little bit, run my intervals at 6:30, and maybe run my tempos at 7, and just see how that goes. Try to kind of build up a little speed and see if I can hit that 7:54, which I think I can. I know I did the 11 miles at 7 minutes 54 seconds, but can I sustain that for another 15.2 miles? That's the question. So that's it. That's the video for today, and thank you for joining me. I appreciate you joining me along on this journey. Like I said, I'll do one each month up until the marathon on January the 30th, and then I'll do a recap video right after that, just to kind of let you know how I did. And so I'm kind of looking forward to that. I've got some intervals, some hills, some tempos coming up in the next couple of weeks. My first actual run that will be a race will be on Thanksgiving Day. I'm going to do the Oviedo Turkey Trot 5K on Thanksgiving Day, and then I'm going to do a half marathon on December the 4th, I believe it is, and then the Disney half, I'm going to do that on January the 8th, and then I'll have my marathon on January the 30th. So it's already October, and it's kind of like things are kind of ramping up, and it's going to be here before we know it. So thanks for joining me today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notifications bell for updates when we upload new videos on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and sometimes on the weekend. You never know when we're going to throw one of those in there. So I think that's going to do it today for the Long Run with Joel and Chrissy. I'm Joel, flying solo today, and don't forget it's the long run. Give yourself a little grace.